It is an eerie world where a gaming studio like Creative Assembly can manifest and delegate authority vile enough to weaponize against those that dissent. The evils it has brought upon those that criticize it were unbecoming of a large gaming studio. Those that integrated into it have a similar disposition, enhancing its ability to manufacture lies and dulling its inhibitions to be punitive. Today, we talk about grace. But before we get into grace and Creative Assembly, I want to turn your direction to Mick Gordon, who released a full statement regarding id Software studio director Marty Stratton and Doom Eternal, or the Doom fiasco. The facts are summarized as follows. Mick Gordon, a composer and sound designer, was retained by id Software to create music for Doom Eternal. id Software announced pre-orders for Doom Eternal before he was contracted to produce it. Mr. Stratton withheld information from Mr. Gordon, provided a contract to Mr. Gordon very late, just 48 hours before Doom Eternal was released, used drafted compositions that were not meant to be used in the game, and published a 2,500-word open letter on a fan-run Reddit page. Mr. Gordon stated in his statement, days later, Mr. Stratton published a 2,500-word quote-unquote open letter on a fan-run Reddit page that singled me out as the sole cause behind the botch OST. The post attracted thousands of comments and news articles and severely damaged my personal and professional reputation. Worst of all, he did it behind my back whilst leading me on with a bullshit story about working together on a professional solution to the problem. His statement was full of lies, disinformation, and innuendo, and when challenged, his company offered me a 6-figure sum to shut up about it. When I tried time and time again, amid a torrent of abuse, harassment, and threats, to resolve the matter more amicably, he constantly refused, worried about how addressing the Reddit post would damage his own reputation instead. But as far as I'm concerned, truth and honesty are more important. Marty's words damaged my character and attacked my reputation. I have afforded him ample opportunity to address this issue, but his refusal to do so has left me with no other option than to issue this statement. While the facts surrounding the Doom fiasco are different than the general facts of the case I am making today, Grace and Creative Assembly's weaponization of the TotalWar subreddit are wholly analogous to the case here. For those that do not know, Grace worked for Creative Assembly for roughly 6 years and was its lead community and social media manager that handled the TotalWar social media accounts ranging across Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit from April 18, 2018 through September 2021. As the lead community manager, she ostensibly embraced the role of quote-unquote community cleanup with her stated goal of providing a visible presence of moderation. However, this veneer of righteousness only served to mask her true nature and motivations as Creative Assembly's lead community manager. It is not uncommon for those climbing the corporate ladder to make selfish or self-serving decisions, but what was particularly egregious about Grace was her hypocrisy, abuse of power, and her willingness to sweep Creative Assembly's pernicious nature under the rug. She is no longer at Creative Assembly and has expressed a dissatisfaction with its management, which is an admission of the horrible nature of Creative Assembly's culture. However, leaving Creative Assembly and subsequently criticizing its management does not absolve her of her abuse of power or her willingness to insidiously manipulate the TotalWar fanbase. A cursory look at Grace's social media presence immediately demonstrates her willingness to lie. This is how Grace would self-describe her role while working at Creative Assembly. As social media manager on the TotalWar brand, I am responsible for defining and expanding the TotalWar presence on social media. I set challenging but realistic KPIs, deliver clear results, and report on my successes in a well-structured and understandable manner. I have worked on the launch of 2 games, Total War Warhammer and Total War Warhammer 2, as well as a number of DLC packs. I was also nominated for a Rising Star Award in Women in Games due to my work here, and I am MCV 30 Under 30 in 2017. My key responsibilities include recommending development of or investment in new media platforms and advising on best practice. I identify angles to optimally market our titles on social media and design. create, and manage my own campaigns and title promotions. I prepare reports and analytics on insights, respond to fans on social networks using the most appropriate tone, and create sparkling, engaging copy for all platforms. I also feed into the wider community communication strategy and per-title community marketing plans, monitor trends and developments in social media, attend events as both a social media manager and staffer, and generate new ideas every day. During my time here, the TotalWar Twitter followers have increased to over 80,000, originally around 35,000. I created and built a TotalWar Instagram audience from the ground up, currently over 12,000 followers, and have a rapport with various communities who feel as though TotalWar, as a brand, listens and engages with them. The bit about having the most appropriate tone is a bit strange, considering her lack of composure as the lead community manager. On the screen, you'll see a screenshot of the TotalWar Facebook page where someone says, "Fix your games instead of making whack jokes, laugh my ass off." In response, she says, "Sure, we'll put our social media manager on the development team ASAP." Additionally, in response to someone posting on the TotalWar Facebook saying, "She's also been dead 500 years in current lore. You also mislabeled Spite as being larger for his kind when in the novels and lore he is considered a runt." In response, she says, "It's a game." Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm playing a game and the game is having issues, and I'm going to the social media to see what is going on, and I see that whoever is in control of the social media is just making jokes, instead of addressing the changes and fixes that need to happen, that is incredibly frustrating. And to get a response like that, that is just uncalled for. But also, it goes beyond that. Because if I'm also playing the game and have invested myself in the lore, why is someone telling me it's a game when I'm questioning the accuracy of the lore that is stated in the official TotalWar or any game Facebook page? What particularly stood out to me was her inability to remember that she told everyone she doesn't really play the game. So on Reddit, a couple of years ago, she stated, "Some of us became fans. Some of us were already fans. Some people still don't care. I love the lore and the factions and the models, but I'm not really into playing the game. Some people have battles at work at lunchtime or after. I think it's good to have a mix." But, subsequently, a couple years after that, she stated on Twitter, "I still lurk the TotalWar subreddit from time to time, because I'm still a TotalWar fan/player. And some of the things people say about me is wild. The most irritating one lately, though, is that apparently I once said Warhammer isn't my thing. 100% not true. I still play TotalWar Warhammer." The spirit of these two statements don't make sense, just whatsoever. Pressing forward. As its lead community manager, Grace played a key role in curating TotalWar's forums and social media accounts. While her stated goal was to quote-unquote clean up toxicity, she repurposed the toxic community as a weapon to use against those that dissented, with legitimate criticisms of Creative Assembly and the pernicious business practices it employed to manipulate people into spending their money while delivering poor quality products. The following quotes were posted on Voland's subreddit, wherein he quotes an ex-Creative Assembly employee about their experience with Grace and her influence on the subreddit, as well as his own personal experience with Grace and the TotalWar subreddit. Grace was quite mindful that she couldn't directly influence or boss the Reddit mods around, but would use her ways to manipulate them to do whatever she wanted, find ways to shut down troublesome threads, posts, etc. She was close friends with the moderation team on Reddit. She would give them freebies, amongst other things. I have read that these conflicts of interest are explicitly against Reddit terms of service. So, if that is true, then it looks like they found a sneaky loophole. Remotely puppet string the mods using an employee whose job it was to do exactly that. This is what gaming companies do. Creative Assembly is unique in that they are particularly willing to weaponize the subreddit to harass and intimidate YouTubers, like Voland. I think that is extreme and highly unusual, but they do it, and I have videos that documented it as it was happening. Voland then goes on to reinforce this testimony with his personal experience and observation spanning over 10 years. The effect this has is a completely distorted discourse, exactly as you, ex-CA employee, describe. The loser fanboys have an escalation advantage because they know they will never be punished or banned if things spiral. They are on home ground. The critics are chilling effect suppressed because they are playing an away match and know that they will be mobbed for it if they express anything outside of the Overton window. Vocally critical people get attacked and downvoted and ultimately banned. The bootlicker fanboys get upvoted and defended and protected. When I was being attacked there, someone was threatened by the moderators in direct messages because they dared to point out that the 10,000 plus karma thread was an obvious hatchet job and completely full of obvious lies. They sent me screenshots of their whole direct message exchange with the mod that was threatening them. The mods there were doing unpaid overtime in fabricating and maintaining a knowingly libelous and defamatory narrative, and anyone pointing that out was censored or even threatened. Voland further cites to other Redditors' testimony and what he has observed when he states, "There are people on this subreddit that have described having been harassed cross-platform by weirdos from Creative Assembly's echo chambers for being critical, literally illegally stalked. It was enough in at least one case for them to tell me they were thinking of involving the police. The people doing the stalking apparently were enabled, shielded, and protected. Very normal, very healthy situation." Grace used her influence as the Creative Assembly lead community manager to cultivate a cult-like fanbase that disallowed any legitimate criticism to survive on the TotalWar subreddit. Here's an example of someone posting on the forums, saying, "Hi all, decided to voice my concerns on the new FLC, I believe he meant DLC, over at Reddit, and it already 50% downvoted. It is really annoying that simple criticism, not hate, is being shot down over there. It makes me wonder why CA prefers it over their own forums, as anything that isn't a meme or praise is just downvoted, or not voted up enough for most people to see." Notably, her goal was more insidious than simply manufacturing positive advertisement for the game. She also possibly created legal exposure for Creative Assembly. As an official Creative Assembly employee acting in her capacity as the lead community manager, by crossing blurred lines and influencing the Reddit mods and directly contributing to, reinforcing, and harassing those that dissented, like Voland. Here are some screenshots of when Voland was removed from the TotalWar creator program. In a Reddit thread titled, "Voland is now attacking other TotalWar YouTubers for enjoying other games in the series and quote-unquote copying him, CA should break all ties." In response, Grace posts, "Voland is no longer in the TotalWar creators program, and we are not officially associated with him." And 3 days later edits her comment to say, "Edit for clarity. This was a decision taken at the weekend due to Voland breaching multiple guidelines from our creators program, most notably no personal attacks and harassment. This was clearly outlined to him in an email." Before we get into the email to see if it really clearly outlines the issues to him, let's go over the comments that were actually made and were the subject of the post that Grace commented on. Voland responding to someone who had posted on his video. "The fact that you can even assess Shogun 2 units for balance issues means it's light years ahead of Warhammer, which is just a devolved range clusterfuck. Your barely literate paragraphs of sweaty bullshit are just proving my point, and they are always devoid of any actual substance, like the competing gameplay to my impossible battles in Shogun 2. The game is 9 years old, and there have been 7 games since. Why is it so hard for you to provide anything? At least explain why you can't do it." The person responds, "Do you know who Mr. Smart Donkey is? I doubt you do, but he literally makes Shogun 2 specific content, and he backs all the claims I just made about those Shogun 2 units in his videos. You haven't even given an example of an overpowered unit in Warhammer, and you haven't given any statements on just those 3 units I mentioned. Why is it so hard to admit that both games are broken? Also, ranged is really only cheese for legendary players, but if you are playing on legendary Warhammer." Very strange way to phrase that sentence. He comments again, "Also, Shogun 2 in my experience, the fights last up to 10 minutes at most, and while Warhammer's quicker, it isn't by that much." Voland responds, "Of course I know who he is. He copied my formula to start his channel and went around shitting on me in random people's comment sections due to his inferiority complex. Give me a fucking break. Cringe. Waiting for your competing gameplay, and how many comments will you go without absolutely nothing?" Remember, this is the thread and the screenshot that caused him to be removed from the TotalWar content creator program. But it's a little bit more insidious. as she said it was clearly outlined to Voland. Here is what the email states. Hello Voland. We were alerted to a breach of our content guidelines on your channel and social media accounts a few days ago, at which point we had a full investigation pending. While this was being reviewed, the frequency of guideline breaks from your channel has escalated. While multiple guidelines have been breached, the key and most consistently broken is no personal attacks or harassment. There are numerous examples of this across your YouTube and Twitter accounts/comments, and I regret to inform you that this has resulted in a termination of your position as a verified content creator. If you find that your channel falls into our guidelines in the future, please feel free to reapply. Thanks, the TotalWar content creator team. Does this sound like an email that clearly outlines all the issues and guideline breaks? Would you accept this from an employer who told you that you were being terminated over vague things that you may or may not have done, with no examples provided? I don't think so. So it's very insidious for her to say that this was clearly outlined to him. Also, he had no idea that there was a full investigation pending, so it's not even credible to state that he was supposed to be aware of any ongoing issues. It is evident that she wielded her corporate power and influence and weaponized the TotalWar subreddit to control the narrative about YouTubers and Voland, who spoke the truth about the state of the TotalWar franchise. Is this so surprising? Look at what the rest of the TotalWar leadership and management teams have done and how they view their player base. For those of you that don't know, there was a TotalWar forum meltdown a couple of months ago, where Creative Assembly clearly showed their disdain for their fanbase, and how they felt entitled to their money and their ability to control narratives. As you will recall, they stated, "The right to discuss is a privilege. It is not an entitlement you earn by playing the game, and in our official spaces." They subsequently tried to do some damage control, but put the foot in their mouth. As you will remember, C.A. Friedman took over the PR of the forums at the time, after that was stated, and someone posted, "I'm unsure if this is a course correction, or a we realized we were too mask off in the last post. Hopefully it's the former." And this is in reference to that huge post where they said that the right to discuss is a privilege. C.A. Freeman states, "Honestly, it's both. In neither circumstance, it is done so with malicious intent on our part. However, I appreciate it's easy to make the assumption. This is just straight up myself and the team asking ourselves the question if we can better serve you in this moment as your community management crew and making sure we hold ourselves to account." The previous statement was created, curated, and signed off by multiple people before it went out. This is what the internal Creative Assembly attitude is towards its fanbase, and to think that Grace was any different is a massive mistake and naive. If you look at the comments I provided above from the TotalWar Facebook page, for example, this is how she interacts with people on the Facebook, and that doesn't provide a atmosphere or a demeanor towards the fanbase that shows that they respect them, especially if it's specifically cultivated for the Facebook page, as she stated. To advance her own career and justify her existence at Creative Assembly, Grace cultivated one of the most toxic online community or presences in the gaming world today. The Reddit harassment spans across years and results in millions of clicks and thousands of upvotes and comments spreading lies and outright harassing YouTubers, but specifically Voland, even going so far as to accuse them of committing crimes with a complete disregard for the truth and with the complete apathy to correct the record. The photographs or the screenshots on the screen enclose a non-exhaustive list of lies and slander levied against Voland. This specific Reddit comment, or the next couple of Reddit comments, were created or posted around the time Voland was discussing the leaks from ex-CA employees. It's so obviously Voland who has filed the spurious DMCA strike against himself. This is about as real as that termination letter he got from ChatGPT to write and insisted that he was leaking. Another person comments, "I would have said quote-unquote yes until I actually took one look at his channel. Then I vomited out what little sympathy I had. Oh, and now I'm hearing that this quote-unquote copyright strike may have possibly been a false flag operation by Voland himself, so it's likely this thread is entirely BS. Done. It is a bit strange that the lie is perpetuated on the subreddit that clearly hates him in a thread that clearly hates him, seemingly adopted with no evidence, and then put forward as if it is the truth. It is a very strange world, only possible by people that do not provide any good faith interpretation or trust, and who simply hate the person they are there to shit on. Another person comments, I think that TotalWar has gone off in the wrong direction in quite a few places. Frankly, I often think that Warhammer has taught the series entirely the wrong lessons. The actual problem is that Voland and the cult he's cultivated over the years have utterly poisoned discussion so that it takes place around petty, nitpicky nonsense like, but the sound effects were so much better back in the day, or why arrow bounce off, and but the way units die is slightly different, alongside things that are outright falsehoods. So discussion of the actual problems is drowned out by what is, in fact, bullshit that nobody in their right minds should give a singular fuck about. If we heard an iota as much bitching about dogshit province systems that CA's been using since Rome 2 as we do about quote-unquote unit collision, something nobody's quite been able to define, we'd be in a better place. Now what's strange about this position is that these are issues because the game is supposed to be immersive, you're paying a certain amount of money, and there's a certain quality associated with the price point provided. So to downplay criticism of the kind of sounds used to provide an immersive experience, or the way the weapons bounce off or interact with the people that are dying, is kind of a very serious thing to brush aside. Another person comments, I love how if you scroll down some more, you see Voland and his fans calling people furries, which is weird, until you realize that they're actually wanting to say a transphobic slur, but using furries instead. That sub is a cesspool. First, as someone who's been on that subreddit for years, this is just straight up not true. This is just a slanderous, libelous lie, just used to attack his character. Another person posts, and by the way, this Axios person has been on this TotalWar subreddit, his subreddit, and the YouTube comments, just arguing incessantly about bullshit. If you want, I'll put it in the description if people want to see it, but it's just so exhaustive that I don't even want to bother doing it. You can look for it, it's there. I am pretty sure Voland made a video about it, but here is one of the comments that he posted on Reddit. I've literally played every TotalWar game ever from their launch, minus Pharaoh, including Arena and Spartan TotalWar, so don't give me that. Voland is an arrogant piece of shit who looks down on people for enjoying the later series. Not to mention a Putin-supporting liar who manipulates and harasses people and makes up false leaks to drum up drama. Everyone seems to have forgotten that fake employment note he forged just 2 weeks ago. Anyone has good points occasionally. Even Hitler banned boiling lobsters alive because it was cruel. That doesn't excuse everything else they say or do. I'm sorry if my hatred of Voland has made my comment seem hostile to yourself. I really don't mean to start something, but I truly hate the man. He has everything wrong with gaming communities summed up in one person. He is like a tumor, and right now it's growing rapidly in this community. Another person goes on to say, Voland instigated harassment against CA employees. They don't want him going near anything they make anymore, because he has made it less safe to be a CA employee. This is probably why they used a copyright strike. Someone else responds, ah yes, the big bad company with $100 million and employees in different areas of the globe are scared of a Scottish YouTuber. By the way, weren't people sexually harassed at Creative Assembly while they were employees? The person responds, I mean, threats to the office and I believe threats of harm were sent to employees, ? I would say that this is validating of at least some restrictions, ? It's not the YouTuber, it's the fan base he's inciting. This shouldn't be controversial. Sending death threats and any kind of threat to a game developer is stupid and wrong. The person responds, do you have any evidence to back up this statement? OP responds, "Not really. I don't keep saved information about internet unfortunates." So, as it's very clear, everyone is totally fine claiming that there are bomb threats or threats to employees' lives or where they live, without any real evidence, maybe based on some second-hand, third-hand game of telephone. But what's interesting here is that this person specifically stated it's not the YouTuber, it's the fanbase that he is inciting. How is it lost on this person that this is exactly what he or she is? This is what Grace has done. She has incited the fanbase to attack rabidly anyone who dissents against Creative Assembly, and has heavily attacked Voland by either jumping in on the dog pile or allowing the fanbase to manufacture lies with no responsibility to correct or make sure that that's not happening. And that's partially why she could have exposed Creative Assembly to legal trouble. Another person states, "In my opinion, Voland sounds like a neo-Nazi than a communist. It really shows how immature and hateful he is. It also flies in the face of him saying stuff about the Holocaust and how Russia should have been there as they liberated Auschwitz, which is true." Then another person, "Can Voland apologists please stay in their echo chamber of a subreddit? Going on a crusade against YouTubers simply because they play the game is profoundly unhealthy." To which someone responds to this person, "Haven't you posted in his subreddit to call him an asshole?" Kind of contradictory. Other people have brigaded his subreddit. For example, a post stating, "Voland is more Nazi than communist because of his anti-Semitic tweets," with the label brigaded. This account has since been terminated, and the post really only provided a link to a Reddit page, didn't provide any other commentary. But someone did take the time to respond with, "This guy came in here, said Voland is a Nazi, posted a cherry-picked tweet with no context that doesn't even mean much to his argument, and then admitted he doesn't give a shit about TotalWar and just wanted to start drama for the sake of standing on a pedestal of morality, only to delete his account in at least an hour. What a meme. Should have posted this on the worst official TotalWar subreddit for his updoots. Either that, or he's one hell of a troll." Another person states, "Nazi apologist." Another person, "You're legit unhinged. Get some help, you fucking psychopath." Another person, "Had something removed by Reddit because it was so bad." Another person, brigades the subreddit. "Stay mad, lol," with the brigade tag. This person posted a screenshot of the top sellers showing Total War Warhammer, Total War Warhammer 2, and Total War Warhammer 3, just to incite some sort of drama. This person was subsequently suspended by Reddit. Another person, "I never came to this subreddit before. I just thought it would be a good place to bring to light this behavior. I wouldn't really care if I get called gormless here, just if I'm having a political debate after which he has the nerve to act as if he is the only one worthy of having political takes." As you can see, people come just to cause problems. This is a community that has been cultivated and encouraged by Creative Assembly, and specifically Grace, because she was the one in charge of being the community manager. Now, there's an infamous Reddit thread that is still on the Total War subreddit that was posted by someone by the name of Ghost Division 123. The Reddit account no longer exists, and I could not find the YouTube page, but it was posted in one of Voland's videos, where he was dealing with the harassment from the Total War subreddit. Now, this person specifically went to Voland's channel because he was upset at some of the commentary provided in Voland's video, which wasn't problematic, it was just clearly a disagreement. Now, this person stated, "Personally, I think Rome 2 and Warhammer 2 are the biggest successes, and judging by the reviews and player counts, most players seem to agree with me. Shogun 2 got boring after a few campaigns, because there's very little variety. P.S. Why do you insult everyone who disagrees with you?" Voland responds, "If they told me Pepsi was better than Coke, I would have ignored them. People are insulted for being dishonest weasels. The disagreement is incidental to the insult." Ghost Division responds, "Don't try to justify your poor behavior. I don't care to hear it." Voland responds, "There is nothing to justify. and I don't care about what you think if you demonstrate no awareness whatsoever. This Ghost Division person then states in response to someone else other than Voland, he's gonna die of a brain aneurysm with the amount of anger that flows out. I'd love to meet him in real life to see what's behind his facade. In response, Voland replies with a relatively benign response considering everything that this person is saying. Provides some Gyazo links as to this person's comment history about his mental health and says, if you met me in real life, you would have a panic attack and start hyperventilating and crying, by your own admission. Now, if we're going to place any weight on these YouTube comments, hoping someone dies of a brain aneurysm, or wanting to meet someone in real life to see what the facade is more tantamount to a threat than anything that Voland said. Now, initiating this did not stop this person from then trying to farm sympathy and play the victim on the TotalWar subreddit, where he posts, Voland, a TotalWar YouTuber with 100k subs, is harassing people who disagree with him. After I posted about him to this subreddit, he has now publicized content on YouTube from my Reddit post history about my issues with depression and panic disorder. What's interesting here is Voland only had to do that to defend himself after the post that you posted, which got so many views, over 10,000 upvotes, because you were slandering him over a transgression that you initiated. By the way, Reddit has subsequently removed this account from the Reddit website. Grace's stated goal was to fight toxicity in the community, but she was perfectly fine scapegoating other YouTubers in Voland and reinforcing tens of thousands of upvotes and comments shitting on them, specifically Voland, regardless of the accuracy, veracity, or authenticity of the statements made against them. She commented in a slanderous thread over a benign exchange, reinforcing the horrible nature, quote-unquote, of Voland's comment, taking advantage of the cult-like community she created to slander him. I'll leave you with this. This is the first part in a series where I'm going to analyze what Grace and other CA employees have done to weaponize creative assembly on YouTubers. The first one is about Voland. There will be subsequent videos to the extent that there is additional evidence, and I believe that there is because I have seen some. But I leave you with this question. Which is toxic? The community cultivated by the lead community manager that results in cross-platform harassment, or the person defending themselves in their own videos and using benign responses in comparison to what they receive in defense against this cross-platform harassment? You can let me know in the comments below.